The truth came only after the final course was served. Welcome to Marshshadowfiles. I am your host, Oliver Vane. Tell me your location in the comments. I love hearing from you. Let's begin. By the time I reached Les Cygnes, I had decided two things. First, any establishment that hung a bronze swan on frosted glass and expected the public not to laugh deserved whatever happened to it. Second, I was hungry enough to forgive the swan if they showed signs of contrition in butter. Les Cygnes occupied a narrow frontage off East 57th, with discretion on the outside and expensive nervousness on the inside. The dining room was closed at that hour, but a side entrance admitted deliveries, staff, and men like me who looked as if they belonged nowhere and meant to go everywhere. I showed my card to a linen-faced young man in a black coat, and he read it, looked up, read it again, and then decided it was above his salary to resist me. Alton Brill met me halfway down a corridor that smelled of wine, polish, and the remains of somebody's transcendence in veal stock. He looked no better than he had at our house. If anything, the restaurant made him worse. Men with nerves can sometimes hide them in a room that belongs to somebody else. In their own kingdom, they show. "You came quickly," he said. "That's because Wolfe issued orders in a tone that suggested disobedience would affect my rations." He didn't smile. "This way." He took me through a private office suite paneled in dark wood, and then into a smaller room behind it. This one belonged to the chef, or to his temper. Copper pans hung on one wall, framed menus on another, and in the middle sat a desk that looked too delicate to survive a serious argument. The top right drawer, Brill told me, was the one that had held the service sequence. "Who has keys?" I asked. "Chef Lucin, the proprietor." "Myself." "Any duplicates?" "Not officially." "Unofficially?" He spread his hands. "A good locksmith can always be found. Especially in New York. Show me the drawer." He did. The lock was neat, not forced and not new. I took a look at the desk, the chair, the angle of the room, the placement of the framed menus, and the ashtray with 2 cigarette ends in it. "Does Lucin smoke?" "No, never. He says it corrupts the palate." "Does that pious view extend to his visitors?" Brill frowned. "I don't know." I bent over the ashtray. One cigarette had a lipstick trace. Coral, not bright, and the other was plain and smoked all the way down until it had nearly singed the cork tip. Nervous smoker, impatient hands. I pointed. "These from yesterday." He stared at them. "Possibly. I didn't notice." "That's one of your defects." Before he could answer, the door opened and the chef came in. Remy Lucin was in his 40s, trim as fencing wire, with dark hair going silver at the temples and eyes that looked born offended. He wore whites so immaculate they seemed ironed onto him, and his mouth had the shape of a man perpetually restraining a better opinion. "Mr. Brill," he said in French-accented English, "if you have brought the police after all, kindly remove them from my office unless they are prepared to arrest someone useful." "I'm not police," I said. "Archie Goodwin." He looked me over with a precision that might have separated yolks. "Ah, Nero Wolfe sends his young man." I'm touched by the family wording. His gaze sharpened half a notch. "You know of Monsieur Wolfe?" "I know enough to stand when he enters a room and enough more to sit when he tells me." Lucin looked at Brill. "Does he take this seriously?" "He does." "Then perhaps there is one civilized man left in New York." I let that pass. "Sit down, Mr. Lucin. Or don't, but tell me about the missing menu sequence and Miss Clara Vane." At the name, something moved in his face and got buried fast. Not grief, exactly. Disturbance, yes. Regret, perhaps, and something that might have been professional vanity shocked into conscience. "She came on Saturday," he said. "She arrived at 6:10 and remained until nearly 9. She had a very orderly mind and an appetite less timid than most women in her position. In her position, the position of assistant to a rich man, they usually peck, apologize, and ask whether the sauce contains cream. She didn't. She ate with intelligence. She asked why I placed the pigeon before the turbot in one progression and reversed it in another. She knew enough to make trouble. Did she bring the recipe then? No, it was sent down after the 6th course. He made a slight gesture, contemptuous but reluctant. A messenger brought an envelope. She read it, asked for paper, wrote notes, and then told me a final dish must be added. Did she seem upset? Not upset. Concentrated. By what? He lifted his shoulders. Perhaps by memory. Perhaps by coercion. You ask for certainty from a cook. I ask for observation. They'll leave certainty to the amateurs. That earned me a brief look that almost amounted to respect. Very well. She became quieter after the envelope. Before that she was composed, incisive, dry. Afterward she was composed, incisive, dry, and distracted beneath it. Twice she returned to the same question as if she had forgotten she had already asked it. What question? Whether the bitter orange could be made less sweet without losing gloss. Which matters to anybody outside a kitchen. It matters if one is recreating a thing exactly. If it had once tasted of bitter orange and grief, one should not turn it into marmalade. Brill made an impatient sound. Remy. No, let him talk, I said. Did she mention Junot? Yes. She said the recipe was from a private notebook of Émile Junot and that Mr. Havel would recognize both the hand and the dish. Her exact words? Not exact. I do not record my conversations stenographically. You should try it. Did anyone else hear? One server entered twice. He heard nothing useful. Mr. Brill came in once, and later Maurice Culot. That's the proprietor. Yes. Did Miss Vane leave with any papers? Lucien shook his head. Only her bag and gloves. The sequence remained in the drawer. I saw Mr. Brill place it there. Brill said, and the next morning it was gone. I nodded. What about the spoon with the Havel crest? That hit, not like a fist, but like a cold draught through a seam. Lucien's eyes narrowed. You have it? Wolfe does. Good. It should not be here. Why? Because I did not put it here. My staff did not put it here. And if a Havel spoon appears in my locked office on the morning after Miss Vane's tasting, then someone wishes me either implicated or intimidated. Which bothers you more? He gave me a thin smile. I'm French, Mr. Goodwin. I resent both on principle. The proprietor arrived before I could ask the next question. Maurice Culot was round where Brill was angular, smooth where Lucien was sharp, and so perfectly dressed he looked upholstered. He greeted me as if I were an unpleasant creditor he meant to charm into lower interest. He had very little to add and too much polish in the adding. Yes, he knew of the dinner. Yes, secrecy was essential. Yes, Miss Vane had seemed self-possessed. No, he had not seen the page Brill received. No, he had not touched the chef's drawer. No, absolutely not. He did not permit disorder in his establishment. As that last item came out with such force that I wrote it down. When men are innocent, they answer questions. When they are guilty, afraid, or French enough, they answer insults that weren't made. I asked to see the typewriter in the administrative office. Brill took me there himself. It was a heavy black machine, well-maintained, with a faintly battered lowercase a and a capital T that struck just a hair above the line. I compared it against the envelope in my head and liked the fit too much to marry it on sight. Still, it was company. On my way out, I stopped the young man at the side entrance and asked who had been in and out of the chef's office the previous afternoon. He swallowed twice, then named Brill, Lucien, Culot, a service captain named Mara Tebb, and one outsider, Daniel Krell, who had arrived unannounced around 4. I demanded to see Mr. Brill and left after 10 minutes. In a bad humor, sir, though maybe that is only his face. That was enough for one bite. I used the phone in the lobby and called the brownstone. Fritz answered and sounded as if the instrument had personally insulted him. "Put me through," I said. He did. Wolfe came on. "Yes, Archie. I've got a desk, a drawer, a lipstick cigarette, a nervous cigarette, a spoon nobody claims, a typewriter that may have done the envelope, and a nephew named Daniel Krell who showed up yesterday afternoon where he had no business. Names later. Facts first. I'm giving you both. Also, Clara Vane received a message during the tasting and got quieter after it. Lucien says not frightened, concentrated. That's all? No. It means the message did not surprise her wholly. I continue. She asked obsessive questions about reproducing the final course exactly, and Junot's notebook was part of the bait. Not bait, Wolfe said. Leverage. That sat well enough to keep. I'm going after Krell. Do so, then the lawyer, Noel, then return, and Archie. Yeah? Do not let Krell perform. Interrupt him. That was a useful warning. Men like Daniel Krell often mistake volume for content and insult for camouflage. If Wolfe already expected theatre, then either the man had a reputation or the shape of the thing demanded one. I hung up and went to find him. Daniel Krell lived in a building that had once been respectable and was now determined to remember it at every opportunity. The doorman wore the expression of a man who had outlived 3 owners and was prepared to outlive the tenants as well. And he gave me Krell's floor without enthusiasm and without asking for my name, which suggested that Krell either received many uninvited callers or none that lasted long enough to matter. Krell's door opened before I could knock a second time. He was taller than I expected and thinner, with a face that had been sharpened by long practice at dissatisfaction. His hair was cut too neatly for neglect and too carelessly for vanity, and his eyes had the restless glitter of a man who preferred conflict because it proved he existed. Yes, he said. Archie Goodwin. I'd like a few minutes. About what? About your uncle's dinner tomorrow night, a missing menu, a dead secretary, and a visit you made yesterday afternoon to Les Scenes where you weren't invited. He smiled. It wasn't friendly. Come in. I enjoy efficient introductions. His apartment was spare but not poor. Books on one wall, a writing desk with papers stacked in an arrangement that might have been order or might have been defiance, and a bar cart with 1 glass and 3 bottles, all open. He waved me to a chair and remained standing, which told me he meant to dominate the geography. You've come from the restaurant, he said. They sent you? No, I said. I came from Nero Wolfe. That landed. He didn't flinch, but the smile adjusted. Wolfe, he said. My uncle's generation admires him. I'm told he sits still and thinks expensive thoughts. He does them wholesale. And you run errands. Among other things. Then run this one, Krell said. Tell your employer that whatever theatrics are being staged around tomorrow's dinner are not my concern. If my uncle chooses to distribute his money in a final gesture of vanity, I'll attend, eat, and leave. You dropped by Les Scenes yesterday. Yes. Why? To speak with Brill. About? My uncle's preferences, the seating, the timing, the usual nonsense. You had a bad 10 minutes. I had 10 minutes with a man who believes linen can solve moral problems. That's a fair description, I said. Did you go into the chef's office? No. Did you see Clara Vane on Saturday? No. Have you seen her at all recently? He poured himself a drink without offering me one. I saw her last week at my uncle's house. She was competent, which in that household passes for personality. She died yesterday. Yes, I read the morning edition. You read it carefully. I read it sufficiently. She fell. People fall. Sometimes they're helped. Then the police will be busy. He took a sip. Is that all? No. A page from the restaurant's menu sequence was stolen. It contained a note about a final course tied to a recipe from Emile Junot's private papers. Yesterday, an envelope arrived at the restaurant with that page and a message, "Truth arrives after the final course." That got him. Not the words, they didn't change his face, but the name Junot did. His eyes tightened just a fraction, like a man bracing for a draft. "Junot," he said, "the chef who died in scandal. One of several. And my uncle ate there. More than once." Krell turned the glass in his hand. "So someone thinks a recipe can carry a threat." "Or a memory," I said. "Or a ledger." He looked at me sharply. "A ledger?" Junot kept notes. On people, on their appetites beyond food. That's rumor. It's also fact. He considered that, then shrugged. "Even if it's true, why should it concern me?" "Because a spoon with your uncle's crest was found in the chef's locked drawer." That stopped him. He set the glass down too carefully. "You're sure of that?" "I've seen it." "Then someone is either stupid or very confident. Which do you prefer?" "Confidence is more dangerous," he said. "Stupidity can be corrected." "Did you take a spoon to Les Cygnes yesterday?" "No." "Have you been in your uncle's house recently?" "Yes." "Could you have taken one from there without being noticed?" "Of course. So could any of the staff, or my uncle himself if he had decided to play games." "Does he play games?" Krell smiled again, thinner this time. He has made a career of them." "Then tell me about the players," I said. "Noel, Dover, Kestrel, Vale, Rausch." He moved to the desk and leaned on it, as if the list had weight. "Noel is a lawyer," he said, "which tells you enough. He will protect my uncle's interests as long as they coincide with his own fees. Dover is a physician who has learned to speak in tones that make dying sound like a negotiation. Kestrel runs a foundation that is perpetually on the brink of collapse and calls that brink vision. Father Rausch believes in music and money in that order. Lydia Vale." He paused. "Yes. She is the only one who might deserve anything," he said, "which is why she will probably get nothing." "Why?" "Because she has known my uncle since before he acquired the habit of distributing favors. She doesn't flatter him. He dislikes that." "And you?" "I don't flatter him either." "That must be a family trait." He gave me a look that might have been amusement if it had learned how. "Do you have a point, Mr. Goodwin?" "I'm getting there. Yesterday afternoon, between 4 and 5, you went to the restaurant. The chef's office contained a locked drawer. Today, the drawer is found unlocked and a menu page is missing. A spoon with your uncle's crest appears inside. A message arrives. A woman is dead. And you would like me to tie that into a bow," he said. "I'd like you to tell me where you were after you left Les Cygnes." "At home." "Alone?" "Yes." "Anyone see you?" "No. That's inconvenient." "For whom?" "For anyone trying to prove you did nothing." He picked up the glass again. "I don't care to prove anything to you." "That's your privilege," I said. "It may not be your luxury." He drank, watching me over the rim. "If you're trying to provoke me, you're wasting your time. I didn't take the page, I didn't leave a spoon, and I didn't push Clara Vane down a flight of stairs." "I didn't say you did." "You implied it." "I implied you were present in the vicinity of a place where something happened. That's not the same thing." "It is to a man who has decided his conclusion." "I don't decide conclusions," I said. "I collect them." He set the glass down again, harder this time. "Then collect this. My uncle has been circling some decision for months. He enjoys the spectacle of people waiting for his favor. It amuses him. And if someone wants to disturb that spectacle, if someone wants to force a conclusion or expose something he would prefer buried, then a dinner is a convenient stage." "And the final course?" "A finale," Krell said. "You said it yourself. Truth arrives after it, which means the meal is bait." "For whom?" For all of us, he said, including you if you're foolish enough to attend. I'm foolish enough to be paid, I said. What about Clara Vane? Who would want her dead? He hesitated, just long enough to matter. Anyone who believed she knew too much, he said finally. About what? About whatever Juno wrote down. That brought us back where we started, which was either progress or a circle, depending on how you liked your geometry. I stood. If you think of anything else, you can call Wolfe, and he'll be delighted to ignore you until it suits him. Krell didn't move. Tell Wolfe this, he said. If he's interested in Junot's notebooks, he's late. Others have been looking for them for years. That's good, I said. We like a crowded room. I left him there with his glass and his opinions and went down to the street. The air had warmed a degree or two, enough to bring out the city's more persistent odors. I checked my watch. There was time for one more stop before heading back. Eugene Knowles' office was 3 blocks away, on a floor where the carpets were thick and the doors closed softly on other people's money. His secretary tried to delay me with a smile and a schedule, but I used Wolfe's name again and got past her. Noel rose from behind a desk that had never seen a crumb. No, he was a compact man with a face that suggested he had learned to keep his thoughts arranged in files and his expressions in a safe. Mr. Goodwin, he said, this is unexpected. That's because I didn't tell you I was coming. May I ask why you are here? You may, I said, but I'll answer instead. I want to talk about Anton Havel's dinner, Clara Vane's death, and anything you know about Emile Junot's private notebooks. That last did it. Not much. Just a flicker, but it was enough. I see, he said. Then perhaps we should both be very careful about what we say next. Careful is my second best quality, I told him. My first is persistence. Let's see which one you like better. Noel gestured to a chair, then sat again himself, and folding his hands as if he were about to preside over a minor dispute involving polite people and unpleasant sums. You mentioned Miss Vane, he said. A tragedy. I assume the police are handling it. They are. I'm handling what connects to it. And that would be? Your client's dinner tomorrow, a missing menu page, a message that reads like a stage direction, and a recipe tied to Emile Junot. Noel's eyes rested on me without warmth. Junot has been dead for years. So has Miss Vane, I said. That doesn't seem to have simplified things. A faint tightening at the corners of his mouth told me I'd nudged something. What is it you want from me, Mr. Goodwin? Start simple. How long have you represented Anton Havel? 17 years. Long enough to know his habits. Yes. Does he enjoy theatrical gestures? Noel considered. He enjoys control. If that appears theatrical to others, that is incidental. Is tomorrow's dinner about control? It is about closure. For whom? For Mr. Havel, he said. That should be sufficient. It isn't, I said, because someone else has decided it's about something more. Did Miss Vane ever discuss Junot with you? No. Did she ever mention a recipe from Junot's notebooks? No. You're sure? Yes. You hesitated. I did not. You did. Briefly. Noel's fingers pressed together a fraction harder. If I did, it was because I'm trying to understand why you think a chef's old scribblings have any relevance to my client's affairs. Because Junot didn't just write recipes, I said. He wrote people. That landed more solidly than I expected. Not a flinch this time, but a pause. The kind that comes when a man hears something confirmed that he had hoped would remain rumor. I see, Noel said slowly. And you believe such documents exist? I believe Miss Vane believed they did. Enough to bring one into a kitchen and ask for it to be recreated exactly. And you think that is motive for her death? I think it's reason for someone to be nervous. Noel leaned back slightly. Mr. Goodwin, I advise you to proceed with caution. My client's affairs are complex. There are financial, personal, and reputational considerations. Which one worries you most? I asked. That is not your concern. It is, if it got someone killed. He met my eyes. You have no evidence of that. I have a dead woman, a message about truth, and a recipe from a man who catalogued other people's sins. That's not evidence. But it's a direction. And where does that direction lead? That's what I'm asking you. Noel was quiet for a moment, then said, Miss Vane was efficient, loyal, discreet. If she came into possession of something sensitive, she would not have acted recklessly. She went to a restaurant with it. That may not have been her decision. Whose was it? My client's, Noel said. That was new. Havel told her to take the recipe to Les Cygnes. Yes. Why? Because he wanted that dish served. Why that dish? Noel hesitated again, longer this time. Because it mattered to him. That's not an answer, I said. It is the only one I'm prepared to give. Then let me improve the question. Did Havel know where the recipe came from? Yes. Did he know it came from Junot's private papers? Yes. Did he know those papers might contain more than recipes? Noel didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. I believe he did. And he still wanted it served. Yes. That's either nostalgia or bait, I said. Noel's eyes flickered. Or both. That was better. Did Miss Vane receive any unusual communications in the last few days? I asked. I wouldn't know. You wouldn't ask. I don't involve myself in my client's staff beyond necessity. That's convenient. It's professional. Did you see her after Saturday? No. Did you speak to her? No. Did your client? Yes. When? Sunday morning. About what? I don't know. You didn't ask? No. That's not like you, I said. Noel's mouth tightened. You presume too much. I'm collecting, I reminded him. Did Havel seem disturbed after that conversation? He seemed decided. About what? About proceeding with the dinner. So if there was any thought of cancelling it, it ended Sunday morning. Yes. After he spoke to Miss Vane. Yes. And then she dies Monday. That appears to be the sequence. I let that sit for a second. Who benefits if the dinner goes forward now? I asked. All of the invited parties, Noel said. They will hear my client's intentions directly. And if it doesn't go forward? Speculation, delay, possibly advantage for those who prefer uncertainty. Like you, I said. He didn't blink. I prefer clarity. That's what you get paid to say. It is also what I believe. Do you believe someone is trying to force that clarity? I believe, Noel said carefully, that someone may wish to control the timing of it. By sending messages? Possibly. By killing a secretary? That is your speculation, not mine. I nodded. Then let me ask you something else. Does your client own any items from Émile Junot? Not recipes, objects. Noel frowned slightly. Why would he? Because a spoon with his family crest turned up in a locked drawer at the restaurant. That hit clean. Noel's eyes sharpened. You're certain? Yes. That is unexpected. Or arranged? Yes, he said. Or that. Does Havel keep such items in his house? He has a collection of silver. Some pieces are old. Accessible. To staff, yes. To visitors, under supervision. To relatives. That would depend on the relative. Daniel Krell? Noel allowed himself the smallest of smiles. Mr. Krell has access to many things. Whether he has permission is another matter. That's helpful. I try. I stood. One more thing. If Junot's notebooks exist, who would want them? Noel didn't hesitate this time. Anyone who understands what information is worth. Names. Collectors. Rivals. Beneficiaries. Enemies. Mr. Goodwin, you're asking for a list of human motives. I'm narrowing it. I said. Who among tomorrow's guests would understand Junot well enough to use him? Noel thought for a moment. Lydia Vale, he said. She knew that world. She knew Juno, and she knew my client when he was young enough to be influenced by such things. That was the first time her name had come with weight. Where do I find her? He gave me an address. I thanked him and headed out, carrying more than I'd brought in. The pieces were starting to line up. Not neatly, not yet, but enough to show edges. Havel knew about the recipe and wanted it served anyway. Miss Vane had been involved in something deliberate, not accidental. Krell had proximity and attitude, and Lydia Vale had history, with both Havel and Junot. By the time I reached the street again, the day had shifted into that early afternoon stretch where decisions start to feel heavier than they did in the morning. I checked my watch. I could go back to the brownstone and report, or I could take one more step forward while the trail still had heat. I turned toward Lydia Vale's address. If Noel was right, she wasn't just another guest. She was part of whatever had started this long before the final course was ever planned. Lydia Vale's address took me uptown to a building that didn't advertise itself and didn't need to. The kind with a quiet lobby, thick rugs, and a doorman who didn't ask questions because he already had answers. He looked at me once, decided I wasn't delivering flowers or trouble, just a different flavor of it, and said, "Miss Vale is expecting no one." "That makes two of us," I told him. "But she'll see me." He hesitated just long enough to prove he knew better, then picked up the phone and spoke softly. A moment later, he nodded and waved me toward the elevator. That told me something before I even reached her door. Lydia Vale didn't waste time pretending she wasn't interested. She opened it herself. She was older than I had expected, but not in a way that invited sympathy. Her hair was silver, worn simply, and her face had the kind of lines that come from choosing when to feel and when not to. She wore a dark dress that didn't ask for attention and didn't need it. Her eyes were clear and steady. "Mr. Goodwin," she said. Not a question. "Yes. Come in." Her apartment was spare in the way of someone who had already owned too much at some point and decided against repeating the experience. No clutter, no fuss, but everything placed with intention. A piano stood against one wall, closed. That made me look twice. She noticed. "I don't play anymore," she said. "Then you keep it for memory." "I keep it for silence," she said. "Sit down." I did. She remained standing for a moment, studying me as if deciding how much truth I could carry without spilling it. "You've come about Clara," she said. "Yes." She was a capable girl. "She's dead." "Yes." No tremor, no dramatics, just fact. "You knew her?" I asked. "Only slightly. She handled Mr. Havel's affairs with efficiency. That was enough." "You knew Junot," I said. That got the first real reaction. Not surprise, recognition. "Yes," she said. "I knew him. Better than slightly. Better than wisely." I let that sit. "Then you know about his notebooks?" "I know they existed," she said. "I also know that men like Junot do not keep records for posterity. They keep them for leverage." "Do you know where they are now?" "No." "Do you know who might?" She walked to the window, looked out for a moment, then turned back. "I know who would want them," she said, "which is not the same thing." "I'm collecting motives," I said. "They're useful even when they're common." She nodded slightly. "Then add this one. Regret." "That's not common enough to be helpful." "It is when it's old," she said. "Old regret has patience. It waits for an opportunity to correct itself." "By killing a secretary?" Her eyes sharpened. "Do you believe Clara was killed?" "I believe someone wanted control over what she knew." "That is not the same thing." "No," I said, "but it often travels with it." She crossed back to the chair opposite me and sat. "What exactly did Clara know?" I asked. "She knew that Mr. Havel had decided something," Lydia said, something he had postponed for years. His estate. Yes. And the final course. That was part of it. How? She studied me again, measuring. You've spoken to Noel, she said. Yes. And Krell. Yes. And the restaurant. Yes. Then you already know enough to ask the right question, she said. You're just not asking it. I like to hear answers first, I said. Then I improve the questions. A faint hint of amusement touched her mouth. Very well, then answer this. Why would Anton Havel choose a dish from Émile Junot's private notebook as the final course of a dinner where he intends to announce the disposition of his estate? Because it means something to him, I said. Memory, symbolism, or a message. Which? All three, I said. But the message is the interesting part. Yes, she said. It is. So what's the message? She didn't answer directly. Junot was not merely a chef, she said. He was an observer. He watched people when they thought they were safe, when they were eating, drinking, boasting, confessing. He understood that appetite reveals character. I've met a few men like that, I said. Wolfe keeps notes too. He just doesn't write them down. That may be the difference between discretion and power, she said. Junot wrote things down, names, preferences, weaknesses, secrets. And Havel was one of his subjects. Yes. What kind of secrets? Not the kind you print in newspapers, she said. The kind you use when you want something from someone who would rather not give it. Blackmail. Influence, she corrected. Same currency, I said. Yes. And now the recipe resurfaces. Yes. At a dinner where Havel is about to make a final decision. Yes. And someone sends a message about truth arriving after the final course. Yes. So the dinner isn't just a dinner, I said. It's a reveal. She nodded once. Whose? I asked. That, she said, is the question. We sat with that for a moment. Did Clara know what the reveal was? I asked. I believe she suspected. And that made her dangerous. Yes. To whom? Lydia didn't answer immediately. Then she said, to anyone who had something to lose. Which brings us back to the guest list. Yes. Krell thinks it's all a performance, I said. Noel thinks it's about timing. What do you think? I think, she said slowly, that Anton Havel has decided to stop protecting someone. That was new. Who? I asked. Her eyes held mine. If I knew that, Mr. Goodwin, I would not be sitting here waiting for the dinner. Waiting? Yes. For what? For the truth, she said, after the final course. That made a neat circle, and I don't trust neat circles. Let me ask you something less poetic, I said. Did you see Clara after Saturday? No. Did you speak to her? No. Did she contact you? No. Did you contact her? No. Did you go to Le Cygne yesterday? No. All right, I said. Then here's something you may not know. A spoon with Havel's family crest turned up in the chef's locked drawer. That landed. Not dramatically, but enough. I didn't know that, she said. Does it mean anything to you? It means someone is trying to make a connection visible, she said, whether it is real or not. Do you think it is? She considered. Yes, she said finally, but not in the way it appears. That's helpful, I said, in a philosophical sense. You'll have to be more precise if you want more, she said. I will, I said. At the dinner. She studied me again. You'll be there. Yes. And Mr. Wolfe? He doesn't like leaving his chair, I said, but he enjoys a good performance. This will be more than that, she said. I hope so, I said. I've had a long day. I stood. So have I, she said. I paused at the door. One last thing, I said. If someone is about to be exposed tomorrow night, do you think they know it? She didn't answer immediately. Then she said, "If they're intelligent, they suspect. If they're dangerous, they're already planning how to stop it." "That includes killing another person?" I asked. Her gaze didn't waver. "It might," she said. That was enough. I left her apartment with the sense that the room I'd just been in was quieter than it should be for a place holding that much history. Lydia Vale wasn't just a guest. She was waiting for something to end, and possibly for something else to begin. By the time I got back on the street, the pattern had tightened. Havel knew. Lydia suspected. Noel was cautious. Krell was restless. And somewhere in the middle of it, Clara Vane had stepped too close to whatever truth was being prepared, and fallen, or been pushed. Either way, the dinner tomorrow wasn't just a meal. It was a deadline, and someone had already started counting down. By the time I reached the brownstone, the city had settled into that late afternoon lull where people pretend they've accomplished something and begin worrying about what they've missed. Inside, the house had returned to its natural state. Order, silence, and the faint, persuasive aroma of Fritz proving once again that civilization depends on butter. Wolfe was in the office, exactly where I had left him in principle, though not in detail. The spoon and the menu page were gone from the desk, which meant he had already assigned them a place in his mental filing system and didn't need them cluttering his physical one. He didn't look up when I entered. "Well?" he said. I took my seat, stretched my legs, and gave it to him in sequence. Les signes, the cigarettes, the typewriter, Krell's performance, Noel's caution, and Lydia Vale's restraint. Wolfe listened with his eyes half closed, which meant he wasn't missing anything. When I finished, he said nothing for a full 10 seconds. Then, "You spoke with Lydia Vale?" "Yes." "She admitted knowing Juno?" "Yes." "And she confirmed that Havel intends the final course as a message?" "She confirmed it's more than dinner," I said. She stopped short of calling it a confession. Wolfe's lips moved. Of course she did." "Why of course?" "Because if she knew precisely what was to be revealed, she would either act or flee. She has done neither. That makes her patient or confident." "Or resigned," Wolfe said. I nodded. "She's waiting." "For what?" "For the truth," I said. "After the final course." Wolfe made a sound that suggested mild distaste. People who wait for truth to arrive are usually disappointed. It must be dragged. "Tomorrow night, someone plans to serve it." "Yes," Wolfe said. "And someone else plans to prevent it." I leaned forward. "You think Clara Vane was killed?" "I think she was removed." "Same difference if you're her." "Not for us," Wolfe said. "Precision matters. If she fell accidentally, this is theater. If she was pushed, it is strategy." "And the message?" "Also strategy." I tapped the desk. "All right. Let's tighten it. Havel knows about Junot's notebooks. He chooses a dish from them. He insists the dinner proceed after speaking to Clara. She dies. A page from the menu is stolen and returned with a message about truth. A spoon with his crest turns up in a locked drawer. Yes, that's not random. No. That's staged. Yes. By whom? That is the question, Wolfe said mildly, as if I had just discovered water. I ignored that. Krell has access and attitude. Noel has knowledge and caution. Lydia has history. Kestrel has need. Dover has proximity. Rausch has music. Do not underestimate piety, Wolfe said. It often conceals appetite. Good, I said. Then they're all suspects. Of course. That doesn't help. It helps me, Wolfe said, so it removes irrelevance. I leaned back. All right, then remove something useful. Why the spoon? Wolfe opened his eyes fully now. Because it is a signature, without being a signature. Meaning. It connects Havel directly to the scene without requiring his presence, Wolfe said. It suggests either his involvement or an attempt to implicate him. Which do you prefer? I prefer neither. I prefer to know which is true. Helpful as always. Wolfe ignored that. Consider the timing. The spoon appears after the tasting, before the page is discovered missing. The message arrives after the death. These are not impulsive acts. They are arranged. Sequence, I said. Like a menu. Yes. And the final course is the reveal. Yes. I let that settle, then said, Clara knew something after Saturday night. Something from that envelope she received during the tasting. Yes. She spoke to Havel Sunday morning. Yes. And after that, he decides to proceed no matter what. Yes. So whatever she told him didn't scare him off. It confirmed something. Wolfe inclined his head slightly. Good. Which means the danger wasn't to him, I said. It was to someone else. Yes. And Clara became dangerous because she knew it too. Yes. I exhaled. All right. Then whoever stands to be exposed tomorrow night had motive to stop her. Correct. And maybe to stop the dinner. Possibly. But note, the dinner has not been stopped. Yet. Yes. I frowned. Why not? Because stopping it might reveal more than allowing it to proceed, Wolfe said. Or because the person responsible believes they can control the outcome. By what? Like another accident. Perhaps. Or by altering the final course. That made me sit up. You think the dish itself matters? Of course it does, Wolfe said. It is the centerpiece, the signal. If it is changed, delayed, or prevented, the intended revelation may fail. Or be replaced, I said. Yes. I stared at him. You're not going to that dinner. No. You're going to send me. Yes. And you expect me to sit through 8 courses of high-priced suspense and spot a murderer before dessert. Yes. I grinned. I should charge extra. You already do, Wolfe said. I leaned forward again. All right, then give me something I can use. What am I looking for? Wolfe steepled his fingers. Behavior, not statements. Watch who reacts before they should. Watch who watches others instead of the plate. Watch who avoids the final course, or anticipates it too eagerly. Subtle. Also, Wolfe added, observe the service, who handles the dish, who has access to it between kitchen and table, and whether the sequence is altered in any way. Lucien won't like that. I do not care what he likes. Good. Because neither do I. I stood, then paused. What about Saul? Wolfe's eyes flicked to me. I've already called him. Of course you have. He will observe from outside, discreetly. Meaning someone's being watched before tomorrow night. Yes. Who? Wolfe closed his eyes again. That, Archie, is not for you to know yet. I sighed. You take all the fun out of teamwork. I take the error out of it. I headed for the door, then stopped. One more thing, I said. Lydia thinks Havel is about to stop protecting someone. Wolfe's eyes opened again, sharp now. Ah, he said softly. That is interesting. Yeah, I said. You used that word before. And I was correct then as well, he said. If Havel has been protecting someone and intends to cease, then the final course is not merely a revelation. It is an accusation. Directed at one of the guests. Yes, and that guest knows it's coming, or suspects. Which makes tomorrow night even more fun. Wolfe's gaze held mine. Archie. Yeah? Do not underestimate desperation. A man who believes he's about to be exposed may act without regard for consequence. I'll keep my head down, I said. Do not, Wolfe said. Keep your eyes open. I nodded and left the office. In the hall, Fritz was waiting like a man guarding a border. You're late, he said. I'm on time for trouble, I told him. He sniffed. Then eat quickly. Trouble does not improve digestion. I went to the dining room, but my mind wasn't on the blanquette. It was on the pattern tightening, the pieces aligning, and the feeling that tomorrow night wasn't just going to reveal something, it was going to force it. And somewhere between the first course and the last, someone was going to try to change the ending. Dinner at Les Cygnes began at precisely 8 o'clock, which meant I arrived at 7:45 and had time to notice everything that mattered before anyone started pretending it didn't. They had closed the main dining room and converted the rear salon into a private stage dressed up as discretion. One long table, 8 settings, near enough space between chairs to allow for privacy without discouraging observation. Lighting low enough to flatter, high enough to expose. Silver that could have supported arguments about inheritance all by itself. And staff moving with the quiet efficiency of people who had been warned that mistakes tonight would not be forgiven. Brill met me at the entrance with a face that had learned how to look calm without achieving it. "You're early," he said. "I like to see the room before the actors arrive." "This is not theatre," he said. "Everything is theatre," I told him. "Some of it just charges more for tickets." He didn't argue. That meant he was too busy worrying about the performance. "Lucien?" I asked. "In the kitchen. He has dismissed half the staff and is working with only those he trusts." "That's either smart or dangerous." "Why dangerous?" "Because it narrows the field," I said. "If something goes wrong, it points harder." He swallowed. "Nothing will go wrong." "Then we're both out of work," I said. I took a slow walk around the room, noting the seating arrangement. Havel at the head, Lydia Vale on his right, Noel on his left, Krell across from Lydia. The remaining places filled by Kestrel, Dover, Rausch, and one empty seat that Brill told me would be mine. An addition explained as consultation, which in this room would pass for anything. "Good," I said. "I like being close to the food." He didn't smile. The first guest to arrive was Vivian Kestrel. She entered with the kind of controlled energy that suggested she was used to walking into rooms where people were already deciding whether to give her money. Mid-40s, sharply dressed, eyes quick and calculating. She greeted Brill with practiced warmth, glanced at me with quick appraisal, and then chose her seat without hesitation. "Ms. Kestrel," I said. "Archie Goodwin." "I've heard the name," she said. "Good or bad?" "Effective," she said. "I'll take that." She leaned slightly closer. "Should I be concerned that you're here?" "Yes," I said. She didn't flinch. That made her interesting. Dr. Basil Dover came next. He looked like a man who had spent years explaining unpleasant truths in gentle tones and had come to believe that tone mattered more than truth. He shook hands with everyone, including me, with equal neutrality. And Father Rausch arrived with a mild apology for being early, which was either habit or strategy. He had the calm face of a man who believed in something and expected others to come around eventually. Then Eugene Knoll, punctual to the minute, composed as always, eyes already taking inventory. Daniel Krell arrived last among the early group, and he didn't bother with apologies. He entered like a man stepping onto a stage he hadn't agreed to but intended to dominate anyway. His gaze flicked to me, then to the table, then to the empty head seat. "Has he arrived?" he asked. "Not yet," Brill said. "Of course not," Krell said. "He enjoys entrances." Lydia Vale came in quietly enough that for a second no one noticed her. Then everyone did. She acknowledged them with minimal gestures, took her place at Havel's right, and settled in as if she had been there all along. That left one. Anton Havel arrived at 8:03. He was older than I had expected and stronger than I had hoped. Ill, yes. There was a thinness to him that spoke of something internal and persistent, but his eyes were clear and his posture deliberate. He walked without assistance, though I noticed Dover watching him closely. "Good evening," Havel said. His voice carried easily, not loud but assured. He took his seat, glanced around the table, and then rested his hands lightly on either side of his plate. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I will not delay us with speeches. We are here to dine, and to conclude certain matters." That set the tone without ornament. The first course arrived. I watched the service more than the food. Lucien himself plated the dishes at the pass, and then handed them to two servers who moved in synchronized paths. No hesitation, no deviation. The kind of precision that suggests both pride and fear. The guests behaved as expected at first, polite conversation, measured reactions, the usual balancing act between appetite and observation. But it didn't last. By the second course, Kestrel was watching Havel more than her plate. By the third, Krell had stopped pretending to enjoy anything. Noel remained composed, but his attention shifted subtly with each exchange, tracking not what was said, but what wasn't. Lydia Vale ate with quiet focus, as if the meal itself mattered less than its progression. Dover watched Havel's condition. Rausch watched everyone. I ate and listened. By the fourth course, the tension had settled into the room like a second atmosphere. Not visible, but undeniable, because Havel spoke little. When he did, it was to direct conversation lightly, never to dominate it. That was control of a different kind, the kind that lets others reveal themselves. At one point, he looked at Lydia. "You remember this," he said, indicating the dish. "Yes," she said. "Better or worse?" "Different," she said. "Of course," he said. Krell made a small sound that might have been a laugh. "Everything is different," he said. "That's the point." Havel turned his head slightly. "Is it?" Krell met his gaze. "It should be." "Should," Havel said. An interesting word. The next course arrived before that could go further. I glanced toward the kitchen doors. Lucien stood just inside, watching the room like a general observing a battlefield he had prepared but could not control. By the sixth course, the rhythm had become unmistakable. Nay, this wasn't a dinner. It was a countdown. Each dish brought them closer, not just to the final course, but to whatever Havel intended to reveal with it, and everyone at that table knew it. The seventh course was announced quietly, but the room reacted to it as if someone had raised their voice, because there was only one course left. I leaned back slightly, watching faces instead of plates now. Kestrel's fingers tightened on her glass. Krell's jaw set. Noel's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. Lydia Vale remained still. Dover shifted in his seat. Rausch lowered his gaze briefly. Havel sat at the head, calm, composed, and waiting. And somewhere between the kitchen and the table, the final course was being prepared. Whatever truth was coming with it, someone at that table was already deciding whether to let it arrive. The pause before the final course lasted just long enough to become noticeable. Not long enough to justify comment, but long enough to draw attention. I watched Lucien through the narrow gap at the kitchen doors. He was there, rigid, focused, but something in his posture had changed. Not uncertainty, he didn't have that kind of nature, but resistance, as if something had interfered with a plan he had agreed to but not approved of. That was enough to put me on my feet. "Excuse me," I said lightly, before anyone could object, and moved toward the kitchen as if I had business that outranked etiquette. No one stopped me. That told me something too. Whatever was coming had already pulled their attention inward. The kitchen was hotter, sharper, alive with controlled motion, but it wasn't smooth. Lucien turned as I entered, irritation ready. "This is not—" "What's wrong?" I said. "Nothing is wrong," he snapped. "Then why are you delaying?" "I'm not delaying. I'm correcting." "For what?" He hesitated. "Just a fraction." But it was there. "For precision," he said. "Try again," I told him. His eyes flashed. Then he exhaled once, controlled. "The glaze," he said. "It is not as specified." "The bitter orange?" "Yes." "Too sweet?" I asked. Yes. According to whom? He looked at me, and this time there was no irritation, just calculation. According to the instruction left by Miss Vane, he said. What instruction? He moved to the counter and picked up a sheet. Not the original page, that was with Wolfe, but a copy. The notes were the same. Exact balance, he said. Less sugar. More reduction. And you didn't follow it? I did, he said sharply. But the reduction I prepared earlier has been altered. That landed clean. Altered how? It has been adjusted, he said. Sweetened, slightly but enough. Who has access? Only myself and 2 assistants, he said, and neither of them would dare. Who else has been in here? No one. That's not good enough, I said. Think. He did. Fast. Mr. Krell came near the service corridor earlier, he said. But he did not enter. Near is not in. No. Anyone else? He hesitated again. Yes, he said. Mr. Knowles spoke with me briefly after the 5th course. He stood here, there, he pointed. Did he touch anything? I did not see him do so. That's not the same as didn't. No, Lucen said. It is not. I looked at the reduction. A small thing, a subtle change. Enough to matter if the dish was supposed to be exact. Can you fix it? I asked. Yes, he said. But it will take time. How much? 10 minutes, perhaps 12. I checked my watch. The pause in the dining room was already stretching. Then fix it, I said, and don't let anyone near it. He nodded once and turned back to his work, already moving with sharper intent. I stepped back toward the door, then stopped. Listen. He didn't turn. If the dish isn't exact, I said, does it still mean what it's supposed to mean? He paused. No, he said. That was the answer I needed. I went back to the dining room. The atmosphere had shifted. Not visibly, but the tension had tightened. Conversations had thinned, eyes had sharpened. They felt the delay. Havel looked up as I returned. Mr. Goodwin, he said. Everything satisfactory. Depends on your definition, I said. And yours? Precise, I said. A faint smile touched his mouth. As it should be. Krell leaned forward. What's happening in there? He said. Has the chef lost his nerve? Not his nerve, I said. Just his balance. Kestrel glanced between us. What does that mean? It means, I said, that the final course is taking longer than expected. Why? She asked. Because it matters, I said. Noel's eyes were on me now, steady, measuring. Yes, he said quietly. It does. Lydia Vale said nothing. That told me more than anything. I took my seat again and let the silence stretch. Then I said casually, It's interesting. No one answered. I continued, A dish like this. Old, specific, exact. If you change it, even slightly, it's not the same thing anymore. Dover frowned. Is that unusual? Only if someone intended it to be exact, I said. Krell's gaze sharpened. Are you saying someone interfered? I'm saying, I said, that something was adjusted. That landed. Kestrel's fingers tightened again. Noel didn't move. Lydia Vale's eyes shifted, just once, to Havel and Havel. Havel smiled, not broadly, not warmly, but with recognition. Of course, he said. That was it. Not surprise. Not concern. Confirmation. I leaned back slightly. Seems, I said, that someone doesn't want the final course to arrive the way it was intended. And why would that be? Rausch asked quietly. I looked around the table. Because, I said, if it does, something gets revealed. Krell gave a short laugh. We've all known that from the beginning. Yes, I said, but now we know something else. And what's that? He asked. That someone here, I said, isn't willing to wait for it. The silence that followed wasn't polite anymore. It was sharp, deliberate, accusatory. Havel's gaze moved slowly around the table. "Then perhaps," he said, "we should not wait either." That shifted everything. Noel leaned forward. "Mr. Havel." "No," Havel said. "We have waited long enough." He placed his hands on the table. "Steady. The final course will be served," he said. "As intended." His eyes moved once more around the table. "And if someone prefers otherwise," he added, "they may say so now." No one spoke, but they didn't need to, because in that moment, everyone at the table knew two things. The truth was about to arrive, and at least one of them had already tried to stop it. The silence held for a few seconds after Havel spoke, and then, like most silences under pressure, it broke in the wrong place. "Very well," Noel said smoothly. "If we are to dispense with ceremony, perhaps we should also dispense with ambiguity. Mr. Havel, you invited us here to make an announcement. You have our attention." That was clean, controlled, and just a shade too quick. Havel turned his head slightly. "You are impatient, Mr. Noel." "I am practical," Noel said. "Ah," Havel said, "a distinction often made and rarely justified." Krell let out a soft, humorless chuckle. "He's right, you know. Whatever this is, let's have it. We've all been circling it long enough." "Circling," Havel repeated. "Yes, like diners around a table, waiting for the final course." His gaze moved to me briefly, as if acknowledging the phrase had already been spoken aloud. Then he looked back at Lydia Vale. "You remember the dish?" he said. "Yes," she said. "And you remember the occasion?" "I do." Kestrel shifted. "Perhaps the rest of us should be included." "You will be," Havel said. "In due course." Dover leaned forward slightly. "Anton, if this concerns your health—" "It does not," Havel said without looking at him. "That is not entirely accurate," Dover said gently. "It is sufficiently accurate for tonight," Havel replied. That closed that door. I watched Noel. His composure hadn't cracked, but something had tightened. Not fear. Calculation under pressure. Good. The kitchen doors opened. Every head turned. The final course entered the room. Lusson led it himself. That alone told me everything had been corrected. 8 plates carried with deliberate care. The dish itself was old-fashioned elegance. Pheasant galantine in clear aspic, the surface gleaming under the lights, and finished with a faint sheen of bitter orange reduction and the delicate trace of candied fennel. It looked like history. It smelled like precision, and in that room it felt like a verdict. The plates were set down, one by one. No one spoke. Lusson stepped back, eyes flicking once toward me, not for approval but acknowledgement. The correction had been made. The dish was exact. The stage was set again. Havel waited until the last plate was placed. Then he picked up his fork. "Before we begin," he said, "there is something you should all understand." No one moved. "This dish," he continued, "was first served to me when I was 14 years old. At Émile Junot's table. It was not remarkable for its flavor, though it was excellent. It was remarkable for what accompanied it." He paused. "Information," he said. That landed. Junot had a habit, Havel went on, of observing his guests, their preferences, their weaknesses, their indiscretions. He recorded them, not for art, for advantage. No one interrupted. On that evening, Havel said, he chose to share something with me. Not because I was important, but because I was young enough to be influenced. He showed me how knowledge could be used. Lydia Vale's gaze didn't leave him. "You learned well," she said quietly. "Yes," Havel said. "I did." Krell shifted. "And this is relevant to tonight because—" "Because," Havel said, "some of those records did not die with Juno." Now the room reacted. Subtle, controlled, but real. I came into possession of a portion of them years ago. Havel continued. Not all, but enough. Noel spoke carefully. You never mentioned this. No, Havel said. I did not. Why? Kestrel asked. Because I found them useful, Havel said. That was honest. Too honest. Dover frowned. Anton, please, Havel said. Let me finish. He rested his fork lightly on the plate, but didn't eat. Over the years, he said, I used that information sparingly, to correct situations, to influence outcomes, to protect certain individuals. His eyes moved deliberately now around the table. Some of you, he said, benefited from that protection. That was the first direct strike. Kestrel's face tightened. Rausch looked down. Noel remained still. Krell leaned back, watching. Lydia Vale didn't move. And now, Havel said, I have decided to end it. There it was. End what? Krell asked. The protection, Havel said. Silence. Heavy. Final. And how do you intend to do that? Noel asked. Havel reached into his jacket and withdrew an envelope. Not large. Not dramatic. But in that room it might as well have been a weapon. By revealing, he said. Kestrel's voice came sharper now. Revealing what? Havel looked at her. What was done, he said. That was enough to break the surface. This is absurd, she said. You can't. I can, Havel said calmly. And you think this is the way to do it? Over dinner? She pressed. Yes, he said, after the final course. There it was again. I watched Noel. He moved, just slightly, but enough. His hand shifted, not toward the envelope, not toward Havel, toward his glass, and then stopped. Too controlled, too deliberate. That was it. I leaned forward. Careful, I said. Every head turned. Noel looked at me. Mr. Goodwin, he said. That would be the wrong move, I said. Meaning? Meaning? I said. If you're planning to stop this with something in your glass, you're late. The room froze. Noel's expression didn't change, but his hand withdrew. I have no idea what you're implying, he said. Sure you do, I said. You were in the kitchen earlier. You had access. You had time. That proves nothing. No, I said, but the timing does. Havel's eyes were on him now. Noel? He said. Noel didn't look at him. This is ridiculous, he said. You're allowing a stranger to... You sweeten the reduction, I said. Not enough to ruin the dish. Just enough to change it. And why would I do that? Noel asked. Because if the dish isn't exact, I said, the message doesn't land the way it's supposed to. Silence. Sharp. Focused. And why would that matter to me? Noel asked. Because, I said, you're the one being exposed. That hit. Clean. Final. Kestrel stared at him. Krell smiled slowly. Lydia Vale closed her eyes for just a moment. Havel didn't move. What nonsense, Noel said. Is it? I said. Junot kept records. Havel got some of them. He used them, protected people. I pointed at the envelope. And now he's about to stop protecting you. Noel's composure cracked. Not much, but enough. You're speculating, he said. No, I said. I'm collecting. I leaned back. Clara Vane figured it out, I said. She saw what was coming. She knew you were on that list. Noel didn't speak. She told Havel, I continued. That's why he decided to go through with it. Havel's voice came quiet now. Is that true? He asked. Noel still didn't look at him. Clara became a problem, I said. And you solved it. That was the moment, in the line, the point where everything either held or broke. Noel finally turned his head and looked at Havel. I protected you, he said. Not denial, not quite confession, something worse. I managed your affairs, he said. I kept things contained. Havel's eyes hardened. At a cost, he said. Yes, Noel said. And now you object to paying it. I object, Noel said, to being destroyed over something that was necessary. Necessary, Havel repeated. Yes, Noel said. Clara was going to expose it. She didn't understand the consequences. And so you removed her, Havel said. Noel didn't answer. He didn't need to. The room had already decided, and the final course had done exactly what it was meant to do. No one moved at first. That was the strange part. For a room full of people who had spent the evening anticipating a revelation, in the moment it arrived, they seemed reluctant to touch it, as if confirming it would make it permanent. Noel broke it. You've constructed a narrative, he said, his voice steady again, though thinner. Impressive. Convenient. But unsupported. That's one way to describe it, I said. Another is inevitable. I did not kill Clara Vane. You didn't have to push her yourself, I said. You just had to make sure she fell. That is speculation. You were the last one with reason to stop her, I said, and the only one with enough to lose. Kestrel spoke now, sharp. Enough of this. Anton, if you have something to say, say it. Don't let this turn into a circus. Havel didn't look at her. No, he said quietly. Did you receive a copy of Juno's notes concerning yourself? There it was. Direct, precise. Noel's jaw tightened. And I have no idea what you're referring to. You do, Havel said. Clara showed them to you. That was the pivot. Not accusation, confirmation. I watched Noel's eyes. That was where it showed. Not in his face, not in his voice, but in that brief flicker of calculation shifting to memory. She was mistaken, he said. No, Havel said. She was thorough. She was reckless, Noel snapped. That was closer. How? Dover asked quietly. Noel ignored him. She misunderstood context, he said. Juno's notes were anecdotal, exaggerated. Not evidence. Not evidence, Havel repeated, but sufficient to damage. That depends on the listener, Noel said. And Clara intended to listen, Havel said. And repeat, Noel added. There it was again. Not denial. Rationale. I leaned in. What did Junot have on you? Noel didn't look at me. That is irrelevant. It was relevant to Clara, I said. And it's relevant to why she's dead. I told you. You told me nothing, I cut in. But you showed me enough. You were in the kitchen. You altered the reduction. You tried to disrupt the final course. That proves nothing about Clara. No, I said, but it proves you're still trying to control the outcome. Krell let out a low whistle. You always did like control, Eugene. Noel turned on him. And you always preferred chaos. Not chaos, Krell said. Just honesty. That's rich, Kestrel said. Is it? Krell shot back. Or are you worried your turn's coming next? Gentlemen, Rausch said quietly. No one listened. Havel raised a hand. That was enough. Silence dropped again. Clara Vane came to me on Sunday morning, Havel said. She brought me a copy of the notes Junot had made. Not the original, just the relevant portion. He looked at Noel. You know which portion. Noel said nothing. She believed, Havel continued, that I should reconsider my arrangements. And did you? Dover asked. Yes, Havel said. Why? Kestrel demanded. Because, Havel said, for the first time in many years, I saw clearly what I had been protecting. His gaze stayed on Noel. And I decided I would not do so any longer. That was the verdict. Kestrel exhaled sharply. And you chose to announce this over dinner. I chose to announce it where all parties were present, Havel said, and where the context would be understood. Understood, Krell said. You call this understood? Yes, Havel said. Then understand this, Krell said. If Noel goes down, And he won't go alone. That shifted the room again. Noel's head turned, slow. Be careful, he said. Why? Krell said. You think you're the only one who's benefited from silence? Kestrel stiffened. That's enough. No, Krell said. It's not. This whole thing, this dinner, this performance, it's all built on the idea that one man's secrets can be neatly packaged and served. He looked around the table. They can't. Perhaps not, Havel said. But they can be acknowledged. And then what? Krell asked. Then consequences follow, Havel said. For him? Krell said, nodding at Noel. For anyone, Havel said. That landed. Evenly. Dangerously. I watched Lydia Vale. She hadn't spoken since the reveal. Now she did. Anton, she said quietly. He turned to her. You've decided, she said. Yes. Then finish it, she said. That was the cleanest line in the room. No drama, no resistance, just direction. Havel nodded. He picked up the envelope, opened it, removed a single sheet, and placed it on the table. No one reached for it. He didn't offer it. He simply said, This concerns Mr. Noel. Noel didn't move. Years ago, Havel said, you facilitated a transfer. Funds moved through intermediaries. Quietly, efficiently. Noel's voice came low. That was legal. Not entirely, Havel said. It was necessary, Noel said. For whom? Havel asked. For you, Noel said. There it was again. That word, necessary. Havel nodded slightly. Yes, at the time. And now? Noel asked. Now, Havel said. It is no longer. Silence. Absolute. Noel looked at the paper, then at Havel, then at the room, and for the first time, he looked tired. Not defeated, not broken, but finished. You've chosen your moment well, he said. I've chosen it precisely, Havel said. And you think this ends here? Noel asked. No, Havel said. It begins here. That was the difference, and everyone in the room felt it. I leaned back. The pattern had closed. The message had been delivered. The final course had done its job, but one piece still needed to be set. I looked at Noel. Clara, I said. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. I didn't push her, he said. I didn't ask if you did, I said. Silence. Then, she came to see me, he said. There it was. She told me what she had, he said. What she was going to do, and you told her not to, I said. Yes. And when she didn't listen? He didn't answer immediately. Then, I made a call, he said. No one spoke. To whom? I asked. Noel looked at me, and then at Havel, then back at the table. To someone who could handle it, he said. That was it. Not a confession in the legal sense. But enough. More than enough. The room didn't react. It didn't need to, because now there was nothing left to reveal, only consequences left to follow. For a moment after Noel spoke, the room seemed to lose its edges. Not chaos, not shock, just a quiet settling, as if everyone present had been holding a position that was no longer necessary. Father Rausch made the sign of the cross, not conspicuously, but not invisibly either. Dover exhaled slowly, like a man confirming a diagnosis he had hoped to avoid. Kestrel looked away, not out of delicacy, but calculation, already measuring what this meant for her. Krell watched Noel with something that might have been satisfaction, except it wasn't clean enough for that. Lydia Vale remained still. Havel folded the paper and set it back into the envelope. That will be sufficient, he said. No triumph, no flourish. Just completion. I stood. That's my cue, I said. Noel looked at me. Your cue for what? For the part where this stops being private, I said. You think I don't understand that, he said. I think you understand it perfectly, I said, which is why you tried to stop it. He didn't answer. Saul, I said, without raising my voice. The kitchen door opened again. Saul Panzer stepped in like a man entering a room he had already measured twice. He didn't hurry. He didn't look around. He went straight to me. I've got 2 men outside, he said. Cops are on the way. That landed the final piece. Noel didn't move. Of course, he said quietly. I Havel looked at him. You may wish to consider what you say next. Noel gave a small, tired smile. I've been considering that for years. That has not improved your judgment, Havel said. No, Noel said, but it made it profitable. Krell let out a short laugh. There it is. Kestrel shot him a look. Don't pretend you're clean. I don't, Krell said. I just don't pretend I'm careful. That, Lydia Vale said softly, is the difference. They all looked at her. You all benefited, she said. From silence, from protection, from delay. She turned to Havel. And you allowed it. Yes, Havel said. For years. Yes. And now you stop. Yes. Why now? Dover asked. Havel considered the question. Then he said, because Clara Vane reminded me that postponement is also a decision. Silence. She brought me the truth, he said. And I realized I had been avoiding it. That's a generous interpretation, Krell said. It is the only one I require, Havel replied. I moved toward the door. Archie, Havel said. I stopped. Yes? You will inform Mr. Wolfe, he said, that his intervention was effective. I'll tell him you used the word, I said. He'll enjoy that. A faint smile touched his mouth. That will be sufficient. The sound of footsteps came from the hall, uniformed, decisive. The police arrived without ceremony, which is their best quality. Questions would follow, statements would be taken, and Eugene Knoll would discover that necessary is not a legal defense so much as a confession in disguise. I didn't stay for it. I stepped out into the night, the air cooler now. Of the city moving along as if nothing had happened, which is one of its more reliable habits. By the time I reached the brownstone, it was close to midnight. The house was quiet. Fritz had left a light on in the hall, which meant he disapproved of my schedule, but not enough to leave me in the dark. I went into the office. Wolfe was in his chair. Of course he was. He looked up as I entered. Well? I took my seat. Noel? I said. He made the call. Clara talked to him. He had her removed. Wolfe nodded once. And the dinner? He asked. Worked, I said. Exactly as you planned. I did not plan it, Wolfe said. I recognized it. Same difference in your world. Not at all. I stretched my legs. Havel used the final course as a trigger, I said. Junot's recipe wasn't just memory. It was context. Everyone at that table understood what it meant. Yes. And Noel tried to disrupt it by altering the dish. A crude but plausible tactic, Wolfe said. If the signal fails, the message falters. Didn't work, I said. Lawson fixed it. Of course he did. I looked at him. You knew it would play out like that. I knew it might, Wolfe said. That's not modest. It is accurate. I grinned. He said to tell you your intervention was effective. Wolfe's eyes narrowed slightly. He said that? Word for word. Wolfe leaned back, just a fraction. Acceptable, he said. That's your version of a compliment. It is sufficient. I stood. Dinner's over, I said. House is quiet again. No one rearranged your furniture. No one stole your orchids. That is fortunate, Wolfe said. And the case? Concluded, he said. So, not entirely, I said. There's still the question of Junot's notebooks. Wolfe looked at me. Is there? He said. You're not curious? No, Wolfe said. I'm satisfied. That's new. No, he said. So it is rare. I headed for the door, then stopped. One last thing, I said. Havel said something. Yes? He said postponement is also a decision. Wolfe's lips moved. Indeed, he said. I waited. He didn't elaborate. Nothing else? I said. He looked at me. Archie, he said. Men often imagine that delay absolves them of consequence. It does not. It merely accumulates it. That's almost philosophical, I said. It is practical, he said. I nodded. Good, I said. Because Fritz left something in the kitchen that accumulates interest if I don't eat it. I went out, leaving Wolfe in his chair, the brown stone restored, the world outside continuing its usual negotiations with truth and appetite. And if there was one thing I'd learned, it was that some meals end when the plates are cleared, and some don't end until the truth is served. The next morning began the way most mornings do in our house, with Wolfe refusing to move, Fritz refusing to compromise, and me refusing to pretend either of them might change. Breakfast had concluded with dignity, which in Fritz's case meant he had forgiven the eggs and condemned the coffee, and Wolfe had retreated into that particular stillness that meant his mind was working without requiring his body's cooperation. I was at my desk, reviewing notes that no longer needed reviewing, when the bell rang. Wolfe didn't open his eyes. Archie. Yes, sir. I hear it too. Then why are you still seated? Because I was hoping it might be someone with flowers. It is not. I went to the door. It was Saul. He came in without preamble, which is his version of courtesy. Kramer picked him up clean, he said. Noel didn't resist, gave a statement, partial, enough to hold him. Who did he call? I asked. Saul shrugged. Still working on that. He used an intermediary. Not sloppy, just not perfect. Good, I said. We like him perfect. Saul nodded once, then glanced toward the office. Wolfe want anything? He wants the world to arrange itself logically, I said. We're working up to it. Saul left the way he came, in a straight line, no noise wasted. I went back to the office. He's in custody, I said. Wolfe grunted. And the rest? He asked. Sorting themselves out, I said. Kestrel's already making calls. Krell's probably enjoying himself too much. Dover's concerned. Rausch is praying. Lydia Vale. Yes, Wolfe said. Waiting, I said. Wolfe opened his eyes. Of course she is. I sat down. There's one thing, I said. There's always one thing, Wolfe said. Noel didn't deny the notes, I said. He argued context, exaggeration, interpretation. Which is irrelevant, Wolfe said. Not entirely, I said. It suggests something. What? That Juno's notes weren't always clean facts, I said. They were observations, impressions, leverage, but not necessarily proof. Wolfe nodded slightly. Yes. So Havel built years of influence on something that might not have been entirely solid. Yes. That's risky. No, Wolfe said. That is power. I frowned. Explain. Facts persuade, Wolfe said. But suggestion controls. If a man believes you know something damaging, it is immaterial whether you do, provided he cannot risk the possibility. I leaned back. Juno didn't just record truth, I said. He recorded fear. Yes. And Havel inherited it. Yes. And used it. Yes. I nodded slowly. And Clara Vane, I said, saw through it. Wolfe's gaze sharpened. Go on. She wasn't just uncovering secrets, I said. She was recognizing how they worked, that the power wasn't in the facts, it was in the belief. Yes. So when she brought the notes to Havel, she wasn't just exposing Noel, I said. She was forcing Havel to confront the system he'd built. Wolfe said nothing. He didn't just decide to stop protecting Noel, I said. He decided to stop using the leverage altogether. Wolfe inclined his head. facts. Continue. And that's why the final course mattered, I said. Not just as a signal, but as a test. Yes. If the dish was exact, I said, it meant the truth would be presented cleanly. No distortion. No manipulation. And if it was altered? The message could be blurred, I said, turned back into suggestion instead of fact. Wolfe's eyes closed again. Acceptable, he said. I grinned. That's your version of impressed. It is my version of not correcting you. High praise. There was a knock. Fritz appeared in the doorway. Mr. Havel is here, he said. That got Wolfe's eyes open again. Show him in. Havel entered the office with less ceremony than he had entered the dining room, but more weight. The night had cost him something, not visibly, but in the way he held himself. Not weaker, just lighter, as if something had been set down. Mr. Wolfe, he said. Wolfe inclined his head. Mr. Havel. Havel sat. I came to thank you, he said. You have already done so, Wolfe replied. I prefer repetition when it is deserved, Havel said. Wolfe did not object. The matter is concluded, Wolfe asked. As far as it concerns me, yes, Havel said. The rest will proceed through the usual channels. Justice, Wolfe said, is rarely usual. No, Havel said, but it is sometimes sufficient. Wolfe studied him. You have relinquished your advantage, Wolfe said. Yes. Why? Havel considered the question. Because it was no longer necessary, he said. Wolfe's eyes narrowed slightly. Or no longer tolerable? Havel allowed himself a faint smile. Perhaps both. Silence settled, but not heavily this time. Miss Vane, Wolfe said. You honor her. I correct myself, Havel said. She made that possible. Wolfe nodded once. Then we are finished, he said. Havel stood. Yes, he said. We are. He turned to go, then paused. One thing, he said. Wolfe waited. The notebooks, Havel said. What remains of them I intend to destroy. Wolfe's expression did not change. As you wish, he said. Havel left. I looked at Wolfe. You don't object? No. Not even a little curiosity? No. That's disappointing, I said. Archie, Wolfe said, there are two kinds of knowledge. That which clarifies, and that which corrupts. And you knows. Both, Wolfe said, which makes it undesirable. I stood. Lunch? I said. Yes. Fritz appeared as if summoned by appetite itself. In the dining room the table was set. The house was quiet, and the world had resumed its usual habit of concealing more than it revealed. Wolfe took his place, adjusted his napkin, and regarded the first course with the seriousness it deserved. Archie, he said. Yes, sir. Remember this. I try not to, but go ahead. He lifted his fork. Truth, he said, is rarely served. It is usually withheld. And when it arrives, I asked. He considered the plate. It is often too late, he said. I nodded. Good thing, I said. We got it while it was still warm. He ignored that, which in our house was as close to agreement as you could get.